Can everyone see my screen? Perfect. Okay, welcome everyone, and hello, welcome to our first webinar for GreenLink Smart City Conferences series of 2021. I'm today's host, Daisy, and I'll be hosting this event with the help of today's co-host, Kathy. And today we invited two smart city experts to talk about the introduction to smart, sustainable, and green city with us. We'll then also have them to share about their career projections and their point of view of the future of smart and sustainable cities. So to begin with today, I would like to first introduce GreenLink. So GreenLink Smart City Conferences series is a project under Student Energy Leaders Fellowship Program. And so the team is based in Vancouver, BC, Canada. So we invited professionals from the fields that related to smart cities and sustainable cities to share their ideas and their career stories with the young student and young professionals. We aim to provide student and young professionals with opportunities to relate to like work and learn about smart city. And so our end goal for this series is that we get to know about more about the smart cities and what we can do in the Great Vancouver area. So we can start a local project about smart cities with our home school, which is Simon Fraser University, and also the local government. So will be cities like Vancouver and Surrey and also Burnaby. And so the conference series will run from June to September of 2021 and cover topics like energy management and other emerging technologies in smart and sustainable city field. And economic impacts also will talk about domestic and international case studies in smart and sustainable city field. So yeah, please stay connected with us if you're interested in the future webinars as well. So this is a quick overview of today. So we'll first go over the presentation with our two notable speakers, and then we'll have 10 minutes for you to ask any questions. But feel free to send out any question in the chat box because Kathy here will collect all the questions throughout the whole session. And then we'll have a quick 15 minutes breakout rooms. So you can directly talk to the speakers, which speaker you want, and then you can ask them question directly. So utilize the time. And then at the end, we'll share the resources for helping you to better understand smart cities for like learning and also volunteering opportunity and working opportunities. And without further ado, I will introduce our first speaker of today. Our first speaker of today is Mr. Jaewon Peter Chung. He's the CEO of Archive Labs and the president of World Smart Cities Forum, the CEO of Accenture, and the executive director of Korea Israel Chamber of Commerce. With multiple essential roles and rich experiences in smart city and city planning, he will share his career path with us today and also his opinion on the future development in smart cities. Please welcome Mr. Cheng, and I will now pass the virtual stage to him.
Thank you.
Hello,
everyone. I'm sorry, I just got in a few minutes ago because I got the first dose of vaccine yesterday. So I feel I'm not really really well, but I'm just doing my best. I never thought about actually just being really sick, but which means I'm still healthy to fight with the against the virus inside. So it's okay. So do I have to just show some presentation deck, or just I just verbally introduce myself and my work in the past?
Yes, you can share screen if you have your slides ready.
Okay. Yep. In that case, I think that probably share the upcoming events this year, September, which is about the World Smart Cities Leaders Summit. We actually basically organizing it together with many different cities internationally. So let me share it with you. Just hang on a second. So I can share the my deck here, right?
We're not seeing the screen right now.
Okay, just hang on, just 1 second. All right, can you see it here? Okay, so this is the tentative. So it's not really confirmed yet, but we actually host events in every year. But what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna explain about my past experience and everything is based on this one. I think it's much easier to understand because I understand the audience for today is mostly students based in British Columbia, Canada. So I hopefully may probably invite the leadership, probably mayor of Vancouver or the governor of British Columbia to the event later. So so event is actually just happening in this September, and we are basically talking about roundtable discussions with more than 25 cities, basically leadership, the mayors and deputy mayors and governors, probably maybe some of them from the ministerial level. And we are releasing the World Smart Cities World Index. So if you probably understand most of the index these days have been introduced by some consulting firm, which is most of the statistical numbers and all the analytical point of view is from the government end. So we are working on much more feasible studies because I'm going to actually talk about my experience later in a few minutes later. I've been working as a master planner in many different cities and countries. So we're trying to just give a kind of really meaningful impact on the global executive decisions on how they actually building on their small cities and innovation ecosystem to make the cities more sustainable and resilient during pandemic, post-pandemic. So the most unique things we are actually working on the smart city agenda. We are bringing the innovation ecosystem into the smart city projects. So about 30% of the whole budgets or the capital will be used for the smart city tech sandboxes. So I think there are a lot of opportunities for entrepreneurs or the startups will have the magnificent opportunities based on these initiatives. So we're going to actually talk about that later. I'm going to skip this part. So we have pretty much every different countries because we're not actually focusing on smart city project in developed countries as well as developing countries, right? We're trying to organize some groups to categorize our different agenda, but we are trying to build up to how to collaborate between the cities or regions of the countries, because the common theme is definitely about human-centric initiatives. So we're trying to build the small cities not just for the purpose of building a new buildings or house, residential houses. Of course, those are a very important part as well. But what we are prioritizing in building up the smart city initiatives is to the best way to figure out the best way to bring the people who can contribute themselves as the stakeholders of cities. So the human-centric smart city topic and goals and philosophy is the most important thing for us. So as you can see that we're trying to mix the developing countries and developed countries all mixed. We also embrace some of the organizations from the nonprofit organizations, UN side, also investment fund and private sectors, of course, because a lot of companies, they are definitely interested in this one because ESG is now actually spreading out concerns for every projects, even the top-down initiatives, even parallel initiatives, and private sectors, projects as well. And so we also working with the academia around the world. So some of the university, we already have the strategic partnerships. So personally, I'm the master planning on Ukrainian small cities in general. We're focusing on Kiev and Lviv and the largest cities and second largest city in Ukraine. And Hanoi Smart Cities projects, actually working together with the Hanoi city government. We're focusing on the most famous districts out of 7 districts in Hanoi. And at the same time, we're working very closely with academia because we can also bringing up lots of assets and the human assets from the universities in terms of the entrepreneurs, R&D, some researches, and so this is very important for us as well. I'm going to skip this part because this is not really confirmed yet. So myself, just a little bit, I the president of Smart Cities Forum, which is UK's based nonprofit organization. So every smart city project is derived from the mandate agreements between World Smart Cities Forum and local governments and central government. I actually engaged myself with the first smart city initiatives back in London in 2014 in building up the intelligent city projects in East London, which is called Canary Wharf Financial District. We brought the innovation and tech sandbox model into the projects. So that was actually the brilliant opportunities for us because we helped the London ecosystem much more stronger with the smart city agenda. So cognicity was the term based on city with the cognitive science. So AI city, intelligent city kind of concept was really implied. And about 1,000 companies applied for this program back then. And we chose about 100. And then 36 companies finally picked as the final winner out of this core programs. So these companies now become, semi-unicorns, or some of them has actually become unicorns now. So they advanced into many different markets recently. And I was also working as a master planner for South Korea National Smart City Pilot Projects. So I was focused on Busan, so the largest harbor in South Korea. The project actually began with $2 billion altogether for 2 different cities. Now it's almost reached out to $6 billion projects. I know it's actually the top-down initiatives, mostly controlled by the central government, but it's also the very meaningful thing to bring some different kind of concept to build out the next level of economy for South Korea. And also they have to think about how to build up their digital transformation in the near future. So that was actually amazing just for me to build out the master plan. And then I actually signed with mandates with Ukrainian Ukrainian government and Vietnamese Hanoi government to build up the smart cities project in the next 5 years. So this is generally about, South Korea's master plan for South Korea National Smart City Pilot Projects. So a new capital city called Sejong, and Busan is the largest city and the second largest city in South Korea. So these 2 projects are not brownfield is definitely about greenfield, because everything is actually built up from the scratch. So the ownership of the master plan is based on Busan. So this city is actually near to international airport. It's actually vacant. It's located in Delta area. The size of the land is actually the half size of Manhattan, New York City. So the target is inviting about 220,000 people, maybe maximum 50,000 people as a residents. And the major thing is to utilize the clean tech. So clean tech with water. So water technology solutions, purifications, and the data, the mixed with the cloud system. Of course, most important thing is we bring the concept of digital twin, because the data should be collected, data should be analyzed, and also it should be stored and in the data centers, and will be used or maybe utilized by the many different purposes. So we needed some sort of the digital twin concept in it. Also, our goals in general is healthcare, energy, mobility, and water tech and energy, of course, and property. One of the missions we are actually currently doing right now in New York City is building up GovTech and PropTech Hub. So we are inviting more than 200 up to 500 startups around the world annually. So some of them will be dispatched to some of the projects in smart cities we are dealing with right now. So PropTech Hub is also very important, because PropTech or property was considered as one minor thing among the smart city projects. Now it's considered this kind of multi purposes, because one building requires many different functions and solution services and technologies. So if you consider the many mega giant buildings, like commercial buildings, like a story, maybe 100-story buildings. You can see that a lot of buildings here in New York City. So these cities now have suffered from the vacancy ratios, because 400,000 people in New York City already left the New York City during pandemic. Now I see that more people trying to evacuate, but everybody, probably maybe more than 70% fully vaccinated here in New York City. There's a kind of trend that you can see that a lot of people just coming back to the city, which means we have more small businesses coming in, and they reopen their shops and restaurants, and even they can re-invite the people, employees, into work back to the office. So the proper tech and prop tech is one of the important thing we actually designing right now in terms of the whole visions of a smart city in New York City, and probably maybe London as well. So I'm the representative of World Smart Cities Forum, which is a nonprofit, as I said. And this World Smart Cities Forum trying to educate the leaders around the world representing the city or towns, regions, or the central government to share more insights and to give them updated version of the concept or philosophy or the core values of the city. At the same time, XN3 is tech accelerator based in London and New York, both of them. And this XN3 helping the startups or entrepreneurs working together with academia to foster them. So it's actually the unicorn projects is actually happening in here in Tech Sandbox and run by XN3. Archive Labs is also playing a very important role to raise the fund, because we all need the fund, the capital to kick in the projects in every different projects. So we assume that each one of the projects in Ukraine and Vietnam, we're actually targeting on $1 billion and $2 billion for the next 5 years. So this Archive Labs is actually raising funds from everywhere, and also working together with one of the largest multinational IT enterprises. So in a nutshell, we currently have 3 different types of the smart cities now, and one in European, in which is Ukraine. In Asia, we are focusing on Vietnam, and the others is actually GovTech and PropTech Hub in New York City and London, and some of the energy platforms in the United States. So the reason why we limit the service terms within 5 years, probably maybe 8 years in the United States, because the role of the local governments, municipalities, and central government is very important. So we are looking for the new government or new regime, because if the government changed, the regime is changed, that will be actually really bad impact on the ongoing projects eventually. So we're trying to just get it done within 5 years. So you have this. Okay, so right. So how many minutes I have right now? 8 minutes?
You have until 10:35.
10:35? Okay, that's good. So we are focusing on the current projects with the SIMs and on the screen here. So mobility is very important for the city, for example, in Hanoi, in Vietnam, because I'm not quite sure how many people travel to Vietnam. If you travel to Vietnam, for example, Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City, you are really surprised by the huge numbers of the scooters and motorcycles running around the city. So even Hanoi, with a population of 8 million, I assume that about 3 to 4 million scooters running around the city. Most of them run by diesel and gasoline, and you never know how old the scooter is really about. So our first mission in Hanoi, for example, we're trying to switch the existing scooter into the electric vehicles or electric scooters. But we cannot ask the all individual to change their scooters to electricity. So there should be some sort of the benefit packages for the new buyers. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to collaborate with the commercial entities, for example, Grab services. So they have lots of the members of scooters. I mean, the drivers or deliveries, so that we can help them to change the old version of the scooters into electric scooters, or the electric small trucks, something like that. So it's not everything with just the changing the scooters. You need to have certain types of the ecosystem and platforms. So you need an EV charging station, you need the sensors, you need also the smart finance, which is fintech. You have also the smart parking area, and also the entire designated area needs to detect, non-registered electric vehicles not supposed to actually enter into the designated area. So it's a kind of all combined. So you need to have a lot of the guidelines and solutions, services, and everything in it. So each one of them is a big pillar. So under, for example, the pillar or the agenda of one specific one, you can define more than 10 or maybe 15 different subcategories. So each one of the subcategories will become the business or the projects. So that's why throughout the Smart City Tech Sandbox, we're trying to foster the companies between startups and SMEs and even the large corporation, so that they can collaborate or they can compete individually. And out of the 12 months core programs, and some of them, probably 25%, 30% will be picked as the final tender bidder to become the winning these projects. So environment tech, also I mentioned earlier, ESG is considered the most important part of it around the world these days. So we are also focusing on the usage of water in Hanoi. So there are a lot of lakes, lots of the resources of water in Hanoi, but the problem is pollution. So you can see that the water pollution and air pollution, they're trying to reduce the pollutants from the sky and also from the lakes and the river, and also trying to use the lakes and river something more effective. And so water quality control is also very important for them. And zero energy buildings in it, or we can think about the building of the data center near the pond or lake or river. So it generate the synergy effect. Digital evolution and digital transformation, you can also say that AR, VR, and digital twin, fintech is all categories involved in this one. And energy efficiencies and P2P energy platform is also another target we are actually considered now to build up, for the individual. So individually, they can trade the energy if they actually stack up their own energies by solar panels or, the sidewalks, or maybe something else. And we also bring the concept of BEMS, which is building energy management systems in it. Finally, safety and living, and also e-government systems. You have to understand the kind of culture of business, a culture of the governance on each countries. So maybe the Vietnamese government, they're trying to balance between the analogs and digital. So in a way of their own culture, we have to just take into considerations of, the kind of better of design of to building up the better living environments for the residents or the government. And also a lot of countries, they are actually looking for the data speed, the velocity of the data transactions. So 5G kiosk is also very important too, but we'll see. And the mechanism and structure of special purpose corporation, which is running the entire projects. So it's a PPP model. So what we are trying to do in every smart city projects around the world is PPP. So it's not about monopolistic governance. We're trying to give a specific roles to the government or local governments, and probably another opportunities for private sectors. So the more money coming from the private sectors, including the financial investors and strategic investors, or probably maybe infra investors. So they can invest by themselves, and they can actually play much more roles in it. And government can actually making the meaningful, contributions to register new laws and establish new bills, or building up some sort of benefit programs for the companies outside, or more maybe domestic companies, or they can invite more tech companies outside of the country. So it could be maybe the mixture together with the London Tech Initiatives, probably UK model, with the Estonian model, which they actually built their ecosystem as a small miniature size of the Silicon Valley in Europe. So the purpose of this one is we are building up a project, which means we are, observing the, finance into this specific projects. And a lot of the portion will be actually open to all different stakeholders of the programs. And the government also, they are really conservative and to spend their own budget. So we're trying to help the local governments and central government to combine or collaborate with the nonprofit organizations or international organizations, and some of the impact funds and ADB, which is Asian Development Bank, World Bank Group, or something else. So in EU for Ukrainian cases, they have opportunities to work with the EU government based on EU grants. So it's a kind of another strategy for the developing countries can be benefited from other funds to move forward with their projects like this. I'm gonna skip this part because it's not really confirmed yet. So it's allocations of the budgets and out of the the specific amount of money in SPC to be spent.